Hey everyone, and welcome into the Reload podcast, along with Nathan Gilsleider and Marshall Scott. I'm Justin Southwell. Guys, we got some live action going on. Basketball got to play in Puerto Rico. We touched on it a little bit with our last podcast. But now that we've actually seen them play, I got to get your takeaways. I mean, am I wrong to start believing right now? Is it too early to start believing in this team? Holy smokes, I might just have to believe. Marshall, what do you think?
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun just having something to do a little bit to have a game to watch. There's not, you turn on it's Major League Baseball, which isn't everybody's cup of tea, isn't always the most fun to watch, especially on TV, and like the WNBA and golf. That's what's got the sports world right now. So to watch a little college basketball on a weeknight's been fun. Yeah, they've looked really good. So some things that have stood out to me, obviously Cashy Nat has been a lot of fun. It would be sort of the most NCAA thing ever if this doesn't get to happen after we've gotten to watch him now. But he's looked good offensively. He's hit some threes, but then it's just like sort of the hustle. There was one loose ball that he dove for that he ended up knocking, and they called it off on him. He was pretty adamant that it was off on the other guy, but he just like had no business even like diving for that ball, and the fact that he made it to it. Obviously like the putback dunk, things like that. There was one point where he was the Puerto Rican team is dribbling the ball up the floor, and Cashy's like clapping. And this is in Puerto Rico in July. Nobody cares really how this game ends, and the fact that he's taking it that seriously. And then a couple moments later, he's got a chase down block on the other end. So he's been a lot of fun. The freshmen to me have really popped. Obviously, if you listen to the last pod, you know that I got to go to a little bit of a practice last week, and I saw Anthony Falesi, and I really liked what I saw. He came in and like instantly had like 4 points, 2 steals, and 3 rebounds, like 5 minutes into his unofficial college debut. Latrell Almond really popped in the most recent game. We're recording this on Tuesday night, so the Monday night game. Almond really popped. He had that crazy dunk that he drove the lane. Arms are super long, same with Falesi, but the angle of which he threw that ball down just sort of looked unnatural. So both of those guys sort of look like athletic freaks. Parker Robertson has been more fun than I maybe expected. He's also playing a little bit more point guard than I thought. I thought he'd play a little bit more off the ball, but he's been out there without Kanye Clary, without Jacob Walker, the other Sam Houston transfer, and he's sort of been running the show a little bit. How long does that last? Is this sort of just like a test run? I don't know, but he's looked good both on and off the ball. Can do a lot of different things. Jordan Burks took over that first game late. He looks like a freak. He's 6'9" and can do pretty much everything. And that sort of leads me to my last point, that the team is super long. I wrote down some lineups that Lutz was running. This was in the first game. So they had 6'1" Jacob Walker, 6'5" Anthony Falesi, and Falesi has a 7-foot wingspan. 6'11" Andrea Gaborvic, 6'8" Latrell Almond, and 7-foot Julius Halif. Julius is where we're gonna get there. And then they switched it up a little bit. Parker Robertson 6'4", Jalen Montanati 6'7", Andrea Gaborvic 6'11", Latrell Almond 6'8", and then Julius at 7 feet again. So this team is freaky long. They're gonna run more man to man, but if the bottom of that 2-3 zone could basically touch sideline to sideline, it seems like at this point. So it's been a lot of fun. I don't know what any of these games like mean. They really ran it up on the team last night. It was the same team that they played, and then on Wednesday, the day that this pod will go up, they're playing a different team. But I have no idea how that team compares to a Big 12 team, so I don't really know what to exactly what I'm looking at. But I do know that they've looked a lot of fun. I think this team's floor is significantly higher than Lutz's teams have been in the past. I think that they've sort of outshot that floor by quite a bit on some of these most recent teams. I think especially that first team, I think it did a lot better than the pieces of that team should have done. So not to say that this team is going to finish better than those other teams, but I think the floor is significantly higher with this group.
My first takeaway is Coach Lutz is a truth teller. I mean, length, versatility, athleticism. Those are my first 3 takeaways, right? You brought up the freshman. I think that's probably if you were watching it, you're like, man, who's that dude? Who's that dude? Everybody that's flashing pretty much there for a while was a freshman. It's like they came in like their 5 to 7 point spurts of like Falesi going bang, 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 and 1 3-pointer, putback dunk. And then Latrell Almond with that, stick dunk, and then does his thing. And then, I mean, the second game, Parker Robinson was I think he had 18 points in 17 minutes, a couple threes. Honestly, in the one that stood out to me, number one, from just like a body transformation standpoint, and then from a skill standpoint, is like Mekhi Ragland has that little baby hook working from both sides, and he's still so big, but he has trimmed down a good amount. And so that was something that I saw, and I was like, hey, now we're talking, right? You got Ben, you got Julius, you got Raglan. All three of them showed flashes of being able to score on their own, rebounding, and then like seems like most of the shot blocking came from like the offside length of wings and guards, which is something you love to see. And I, if he leads the team in shots in a regular game, we might be in trouble. But the other guard that we got, not Cashy, but
Jacob Walker.
Yes,
he's getting to the hole like nobody's business.
He's got a motor. Like, should be of no surprise. Like, he was sixth man of the year in his conference, so obviously he can go get a bucket and he can impact the game. But I mean, that guy was like, I've got the ball. No one's staying in front of me. We're just going to keep going. So
yeah, it's not super flashy with him, but it's efficient. I sort of compared it to like it's not Chris Paul passing wise yet. I don't no, but it's like how Chris Paul offensively he's got 12 points, and you're like, well, nothing super flashy happened, but he just sort of kept finding his way to the hole and laying the ball in. I like that.
Yep, agreed. It's a glorified AAU game, right? Like, there's no sets being run. There's no like I don't even know if any help defense. Like, you're fighting through everything. You're just playing one-on-one, sagging off, doing all of it. But the ball moved well. Guys found spots. Nobody really shot that well until the second half of the second game. So, I mean, without shooting very well, and then you put up 117 points, and then I think 90-something points in the first game. I just thought it looked good from an exhibition standpoint. You saw some of like the basketball people that are college basketball world that were kind of like up watching it on their own, and they pretty much had the same takeaways that we did. It's like, oh, I mean, if your most athletic people on the team are three freshmen, like, this is a good thing moving forward.
Yeah, one more thing I wanted to add is it sort of goes to the length discussion. The first game, and again, I don't know how good this other team is, but the first game, Oklahoma State out-rebounded them 51-25, so that'll certainly play. And the second one was 51-34. And then the only other thing I'll add on in terms of team stats, way too many free throw shot for a set of games in Puerto Rico that don't actually matter. I think those refs needed to swallow the whistle a little bit more. It's getting a little ridiculous. I think some of that's Oklahoma State maybe being a little bit too aggressive because they've just been playing each other for the last, however many months. And I imagine Steve's sort of letting them go at it. So I imagine there is a little bit of over-aggression there, but just way too many free throws for basketball. That doesn't count.
Yeah, but how many of those were offensive fouls? Like, that was brutal to watch.
Yeah, the charge is alive and well in the Puerto Rican League, I'll tell you what.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. No, but I don't know. It was fun to watch. Thankful that they gave us something to watch. It's been a tough time in the sports world right now, just hanging on for whatever we can get. So it was good. No overreactions. Not going to freak out like we did like the Auburn preseason game last year.
But I want to, but I won't.
But it was fun to see what we thought we would see athletically and just overall as a team. It was enjoyable to watch.
Nathan, I'm glad that you mentioned the passing and the ball handling, because I feel like even just watching the highlights from those games, it wasn't just one guy driving, one guy shooting. It looked like there was ball movement included in those highlights. So I thought that was pretty encouraging. And then as far as cashing out is concerned, Marshall, I don't know if we've got a timeline on anything as far as when we're going to hear anything about that, but you got to wonder if he's kind of playing with that motivation, like this could be my last potential game, whatever the case is, leading up to that decision. And so you got to wonder if that's, playing a part into his play right now, and if that's ultimately going to help the team.
He's also an NAIA All-American. So if you're playing, super hard and contributing at that level, I imagine, they drop you in Puerto Rico. You're like, okay, I'm going to play just as hard here too. So, but it was just sort of cool to see that, that's what, fans of any team, but I think especially Oklahoma State, want their guys to do. And he was all game. There was that first game, one of the big dudes tried to, talk with Lutrell Allman. It was just funny because it's like that kid's basically in high school and this is a grown man, playing in the Puerto Rican League. So I liked the intensity of which the Cowboys played with, especially considering the circumstances.
The UNC transfer Bogey, he did not shoot well, but you can tell he really knows the game.
Silky,
right? Really smooth. He got himself in a lot of good positions for good looks. Just didn't go down. All of them shot pretty terribly the first game, but I enjoyed watching. I can see where it's at, and that jump. I mean, it is a very, very pretty jumper to see. Just didn't go down.
So the Pokes won 94-88 on Sunday, 120-92 on Monday, and it sounds like they've got one more game Wednesday. So depending on whenever you're listening to this, they may be playing right now. I don't know. So Marshall, do you have any maybe predictions or anything that you would want to see out of the game on Wednesday?
I think just more of the same. I'm not reading too much into minutes and who's getting out there, especially like they played back-to-back games. Kanye Clary hadn't been playing a ton. Steve obviously expects a lot of him going into this year, so I wouldn't draw too much for that. I'm not sure if he's, got a nagging thing is just sort of taking a little bit longer to ramp up, or if Steve just knows what he's got in him, so he's not going to, throw him out there a ton. So I'm not taking any big takeaways from who's playing. Just, the lineups are sort of fun, like I mentioned. But yeah, I think it's just more of the same. To finish on a good note, it seems like they've been having fun. They released a catamaran video today. So it looks like they're having a good time out there. And so hopefully they come back not only better for having played 3 basketball games together, but also a little bit more cohesive, considering all the movement. So I think more of the same is all I'm after.
Nate, any parting thoughts for you on basketball?
No, I think that's it. I think, he started, 3 freshmen in the second game. He started, one in the first, almost all the older guys in the first game. Just a continued look, I'd like to see Montanati get out there just a touch more and see what he can do. He hasn't really, I think he shot 4 times last game. But anyways, just a guy like that, you just kind of want to see play. I mean, quite honestly, if we're being realistic, physically, he's got the longest to go to be able to compete at this level compared to the others. So that's not completely surprising. But, just looking for that, looking to see other guys pop, see how they play together. And, I mean, quite honestly, to your point, Marshall, I think Ben Ahmed played like 6 minutes in the second game. Maybe he got banged up, who knows? Kanye barely played. So there's really not much to take away. Just want to see them all get out there.
Yeah, sort of speaking to Montanati, because we're getting a lot of questions about it, especially when he didn't play a ton in the first game. I'm still super high on him, but I think it's sort of cool that like he might be, at this point in this exact moment right now, given his skill set, which I still think he's got a super high ceiling, he might be like the 4th best freshman on the team. And that's like if you would have told me that 2 years ago that, hey, Jalen Montanati is going to be on Oklahoma State, he's probably going to be the 4th best freshman on the team, like I'd be like, yes, please. Like that sounds awesome. So, I'm still super high on him, and it's again 2 games in Puerto Rico, so none of it really matters. But yeah, the freshmen have been popping, and that's sort of led to Jalen, it not looking super great for him. But again, it's July. Everything will be fine. But yeah, I just think that's sort of a cool thing that, Montanati is this super recruit and has been for some time. If you'd have told me, hey, that kid's going to be the 4th best freshman you got out there, okay, I'll take it.
Well, you got to love the competitiveness of that group right now and seeing that, and hopefully come out of this thing injury free. Safe travels on the way back, but enjoy your time in Puerto Rico. What is this on here? What constitutes as popping? Is that for basketball? I missed that.
No, we're talking football. But this one more thing. The play-by-play guy on the basketball has rocked. That guy has rocked. I love Dave Hunziker. I want him to continue calling Oklahoma State basketball for as long as possible. But after that, maybe we go to Puerto Rico and find this guy, because that guy's been a lot of fun. I think he probably has trouble saying Ahmed because it is a little funky looking. So Ben is just Benjamin the whole time. It's been a lot of fun.
Nice.
But yeah, what constitutes as popping? So this is sort of what we talked with last week on, more national people are starting to talk about Oklahoma State. And that's in some ways exciting, in other ways a little scary. But what would a good season, a season that warrants those national headlines sort of look like? To me, I think that it's got to be a run. I think there's a various levels of success that Oklahoma State can have in 2026. But I think what would grab the nation's attention is probably a run to the Big 12 title game, just because the nation's not talking about the Big 12 a whole lot outside of Texas Tech. And so if you can get to that game and you're scrapping it out with Texas Tech, I think that could sort of catch some eyeballs. I think there's varying levels of success that this team could have outside of that. Making a bowl game, for one, would be awesome considering the football that we've seen the last couple of years. But in order to really capture that Nathan sort of mentioned, Indiana 2024, not last year, but Indiana 2024, sort of that Tech that captured what it captured last year, and that it was sort of the new guy on the block. I think it'd sort of have to at least be a run to the Big 12 title game to be in that discussion nationally. But like I said, I think there's so much other things that would constitute as a good season outside of that, just maybe the nation wouldn't pay as much attention to.
Yeah, I just think in general, the storyline of having a new coach, the turnover of having somebody there in that place for 20 years plus, and then you've got a guy that comes from the lower levels and is going to be taking his first stab at it in the Big 12. I feel like 10 wins and above, like I don't even necessarily think it's a Big 12 title run in that sense, but I feel like with as low as Oklahoma State was, and if he's able to turn it around that quickly, I think that that's probably what continues to generate national headlines for people to kind of like perk their ears up at Oklahoma State, not only for this season, but just as they're looking forward to upcoming seasons. Like, hey, we're gonna have to keep our eyes of what's going on in Stillwater.
Yeah, I think some of it is going to be style of play, like because there's a lot of expectation just like on how explosive the offense is. So if you come out and you are that, right, and you go blow for blow with Oregon offensively, which Oregon's going to probably have easily a top 5 defense in the country. If you're able to do that right out of the gates and be like, they lost, but my goodness, that offense is going to be ridiculous, right? So I think some of it is style of play. So I think some of it's like living up to a hype that way, like Mestamaker coming out firing, Hawkins looking good, those type of things. So for me, I think a pop like that is like anywhere between like 8 and 10 wins. Because if you're going into the last month of the season and you're calculating into the formula of getting to the Big 12 title game, whether you make it or not, with a good style of play, I would think for me that would be like, okay, that warranted the hype. Because I mean, we've been 0 for our last 18 in conference wins. Like that, it's hard to fathom. And so we should expect much, much better, but that would be unreal.
Maybe the question is at what win mark, I guess, would you guys consider an all right year? Is that 6? Is 6 an all right year? And then 8 good? Anything north of that great? Is that sort of it sort of feels weird given, the standard that Gundy set, calling anything less than 10 a truly great season, but given the standard of the last couple of years, boy, winning 9 games next season would feel like, the craziest thing ever for year one.
You kind of hit the nail on the head for me with kind of where I'm at. I think 6 wins is like, all right, going to the bowl, pretty good. Get the fan base excited again. I think I sent you guys something. There's already 41,000 season tickets sold, and I think we're just about 10,000 or so away from calling it a season sellout, because they give anywhere from 10 to 12,000 to the opposing team. For me, it's 6 is like kind of bare minimum. Like, okay, I like it, barring injuries and all these things that we know that can happen. 8, you're like, that's pretty darn good. If you won 8, then you were probably in a couple more that you lost, close ones, maybe like at Kansas State or Oregon, Tech, whatever. I mean, I think you start getting to 9 and 10, and like that isn't a superb season. I mean, that's just me. You're talking about 80. What was the final count? Like 80 plus newcomers into Stillwater.
Yeah, north of 80, I believe.
So just you factor in all of that. Now, I will say the one thing that this team does have, and people have talked about, all these guys coming over with Coach Morse. Even more so than that, like this is the quarterback's 3rd year in a row with the same OC, the same QB coach in the same system, right? And we know that works. So, that's the same thing for young running backs, for the wide receiver, you know what I mean? So like that to me has me most excited about being able to pick it up off the ground and go, because the most important pieces there to doing that are in place.
Yeah, the hard part is that Oregon is thrown in the middle of that non-conference schedule. And so you go into that just assuming that's going to be a loss. And if you win that game, then it's like, okay, expectations are completely different than what I had going into this thing. But even if you think back to last year, those guys had no reason to even show up. And for whatever reason, Coach Meacham was able to rally the troops. And from November on, the games were not completely just awful. There were close games. The defense kind of turned it around. I think the last 3 games, we ended up losing by an average of 6 points. And so you got to factor that into the Big 12 schedule. It's kind of like as bad as Oklahoma State was last year. These teams didn't look all that impressive. Now, I could go for the argument that, hey, these guys are kind of taking the week off. It's another bye week for them. Oklahoma State is down that bad. These guys are just showing up just to win. That's fair. But at the same time, you look at it, it's kind of like UCF didn't impress me at all. Iowa State didn't impress me. Kansas State didn't impress me at the end of last year. Kansas didn't really impress me whenever they played Oklahoma State. I think all of those teams are on the schedule this year. And so even if you take into the revenge factor aspect of that, it's kind of like, well, there's 4 more right there. So yeah, I'm hovering around that. 6 wins is like, that's pretty much got to be the floor. I feel like I understand you're going from 1 to 6. That's a big deal. It's a big jump. And there's a lot of turn going on, but man, like this is just the relentless expectation of this fan base. This is what we expect now. And so if you get around 6, yeah, I'm going to be kind of disappointed. 7, 8, okay, we're heading in the right direction. I feel like 9 is probably like, hey, this is what I expected this year. 8 or 9 is about like that. And it's like if you win 10, I'm like, okay, dude, we're a little bit ahead of schedule as far as my expectations were with Eric Morris coming in and taking over and what the expectations could be moving forward.
But to kind of piggyback on that a little bit, I think if our quarterback doesn't get hurt in the first game of the year, and Jaleel John, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think last year's team probably comfortably wins between 4 and 6 games. We had a wide receiver starting half of our games at quarterback.
Right.
So we basically turned over the entire roster. And I would argue, personally, the only one that we lost to another school that isn't as good or upgraded at their particular position may be Wendell Gregory. Right? I mean, I think we lost, we lost a good offensive lineman that's at TCU now, but I think we brought some really good, you know what I'm saying? So I'm not trying to, disparage anybody that left. But that being said, our talent floor has risen quite a bit. And that team in this conference probably would have won 4 to 6 games. Even if Coach Gundy probably doesn't get fired and all the injuries still happen, I think we probably would have. I mean, we had Cincinnati on the ropes. We had a couple teams, going in that fourth quarter on smoke and mirrors that really once it started getting tough, it kind of fell apart. That doesn't happen if your coach doesn't get fired. You know what I mean? So I'm just saying, I'm agreeing with you in the fact that I think 6 with our schedule is probably the floor, needs to be the floor.
Yeah. And a big argument is okay, how can they make the jump from North Texas, from the American to the Big 12 when Oklahoma State lost to an American team last year in Tulsa, and Tulsa went 1-7 in the American. So, that always sort of soothes me in terms of like, okay, it's not D2 up to the Big 12. This is a lot of. I was talking with somebody about this today. I haven't talked to like 8 people. Oh, Eli, he called me. Anyway, so I was talking with somebody about this today that it's sort of like right now is the Big 12 after the end of the year. It's sort of upper echelon players are either going to the draft or going to the SEC or the Big 10, and then all of your group of 5 players are sort of funneling to the Big 12 from all of those 5 conferences. You think of Jalen Rayner, the Arkansas State quarterback's now at Iowa State. Alonzo Barnett, the James Madison quarterback, is now at UCF. Obviously, all the North Texas connections that this roster's got. But so it's really the best of the best, and then those best of the best are going to either end up getting drafted or some of them are going to filter up again. But yeah, I think this. I'm sort of getting over the fact that okay, how are they going to do in this jump from the American to the Big 12? Because I just keep thinking about that Tulsa game and how bad Oklahoma State looked, and then the fact that Tulsa went 1-7 in the American and North Texas was killing everybody in the American. So
well, I mean, yeah, it was their Super Bowl last year. And like in 2023, we lost to South Alabama, and that 2023 team ended up doing pretty well. So
yeah, once they were like, hey, Ollie Gordon, hand that guy the ball. I think maybe the take is after the 23 season is that the quarterback situation really didn't matter. They just needed to get somebody to turn around and hand zero the football.
For sure.
Can I go like full like tinfoil hat?
It's July. We've got
Please.
plenty of time.
Okay, because I didn't believe it at the time, but looking back on it retrospectively, there was one quarterback on that roster that they were trying to make work by making that a 3-man rotation. And he
Gundy?
shouldn't even been out there. Yeah.
It was just always going to be Bowman. That's why he came to the school. That was
That's-
But again, it didn't
yeah.
matter. Just turn around, hand Ollie Gordon the ball.
100% agree. But the only reason that even happened is because somebody wanted somebody else to be the quarterback, because it was night and day.
I mean, I can maybe get on board with that and put on my tinfoil hat as well, but think about whenever Bowman was coming in, it was kind of like, hey, this guy has an injury history. Can he even play? Maybe we should get the backups in just in case and get them some game reps, because we can't necessarily like put all our eggs in one basket here. I don't know.
I don't know that any of them were really all that good.
Well,
that played out.
I was going to say that has played out if you've followed where they've been and what they've done since leaving Oklahoma State. So that's, to your point, more tinfoil hat. Kind of didn't recruit the position like we should have to maybe make it fit. Hat off.
My tinfoil hat stays on.
Okay.
All right.
You want me to bring it up? I'll tee you guys up because you guys are the ones that
I didn't want to talk about this, but we have to talk about it because it's all that Twitter's talking about right now. We're back to talk about jersey patches. Old man yelling at cloud once again.
If you guys will recall, a few weeks back, Oklahoma State signed a jersey patch deal with the Osage Nation. Believe the number was $2 million, somewhere in the low millions, let's say, allegedly, reportedly. News came out today that Ohio State and JP Morgan Chase have a jersey patch deal that's worth $17 million. And Notre Dame has a deal with SoFi worth between 18 and 20 million. Those are obviously bigger numbers than the reported Oklahoma State numbers. And that has divided opinions, at least within the Reload group chat a little bit. So I'll sort of let both of you guys declare your stances, and we'll have a good scrap, and we'll shake hands, and we'll do the hockey stick tap at the end of this thing.
Yeah. This is all in good fun because obviously Justin and I are on a little bit different sides of this. But
well, Marshall, I think you failed to mention Monster Energy as well, because that's
that's
part of this discussion as well.
Okay,
but everybody's aware of it. So let's just gloves off, Nate. Let's go.
Well, the thing that's been most frustrating to me is whenever I see people like trying to clown on the Big 12 for saying like Notre Dame, which is a global brand and arguably the biggest brand in all of college athletics, is Notre Dame football. Let's just be fair about that.
Sure. That's fair.
Okay? So they're like, well, the Big 12 only got 20 as an entire conference and Notre Dame got this. That's apples and oranges, because number one, it's not a standalone patch. It's with the university. It's with each university. It's with the conference, which they're actually doing some of the marketing for us. And if they didn't do anything like that, then each university just is going to be without those extra $1 million, which if the Big 12 is in no place to be saying no to any type of money. So you're trying to compare something that's not a comparative. And if people are saying like, well, this is an awful deal compared to what? That's like getting upset when you buy a house that it didn't match the Zestimate that you saw in Zillow. It's only worth what it's worth. And so you're telling me that all 16 AD signed off on a deal that sucks because they could have found something better.
Yes.
And I just, there's no way.
They're just groveling, trying to get any little bit of scraps, this money. Like, oh, please give me a little bit of money. We'll take it. We'll take whatever we can get. No.
Hell
Garbage.
yeah. That's
No,
where we're
no.
at.
No, here's the thing. If you were not so obsessed with making literally any amount of money, you could have waited for these deals to come to fruition and use that as leverage. Ohio State's getting $17 million from JP Morgan Chase Bank. I understand Ohio State, big time brand, arguably the best in the Big Ten. Big Ten's a big conference, tons of eyeballs. Monster Energy is paying $3 million more for the whole conference, 16 teams. Like, what are we doing?
It's not a standalone endorsement patch. You can every school in the conference can still go get a patch.
It doesn't matter.
2 of them.
They can go get patches. Guess who else can go get patches? Ohio State, Notre Dame. They're not limited to just one.
So you think that just because Oklahoma State and the Big 12 got one, Ohio State's like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. I'll go ahead and do that.
They were probably on their way to go get it anyway.
These deals take months.
They were on their way to get it anyway.
Much of them use the same firms. Every school, it's just like a coaching search. They all use the same firms. So you don't think that all these really, really smart ADs, people that have gotten to these positions, including the commissioner of the Big 12, have gotten to these positions by having their head in the sand and being like, we're not going to do any type of market valuation, and we're just going to go take whatever we think is a good deal.
And that's what it looks like based on the deals that have come through. Like it is so bad. It is like $20 million for Monsters ad budget comparatively to anything they have. You compare that with SoFi for what they just did for Notre Dame. I understand Notre Dame, big time brand, sure. But if you're going to pay Notre Dame $18 million, don't you think that Monster could see that? The Big 12 teams could see that and say, maybe we're worth a little bit more than $1 million per team. Don't you think that Osage Nation could have been like, hey, I just saw that Ohio State is getting $17 million from this bank. We cannot match that. We're not going to come anywhere close to that. But instead of $1 million, don't you think maybe $5 million? Could we meet maybe in the middle, like $3 million, where you're talking about like just anything more than what we got? It just seems like based on these numbers that I'm seeing, I see people trying and then settling for what they can get, no leverage. Whereas now we're seeing these numbers come out and I feel like they could have used that as leverage. It's a missed opportunity. The next time that these contracts come around,
you're acting like
they're going to get more, but it's going to be too late.
You're acting like the assumption is that Chad Weiberg had no idea of anybody else in the conference what they were going to get, and nobody that he used as marketing or lawyers or anybody else put any feelers out to say like, hey, whatever it is, the XRP KU is going to get whatever it is, $8 million, $10 million. You don't think that he had any wherewithal, considering that happened 2 weeks after Oklahoma State?
I don't know. He can answer that. But if he comes out of this deal, let's say that every other team in the Big 12 gets a sponsor patch and OSU ends up being one of the lowest. It doesn't matter that we were one of the first or one of the most forward-thinking, innovative thinking, whatever the case is, because we're at the bottom.
We've never been forward-thinking. That's why we're in the problem that we're in.
What? OSU's always at the forefront of these innovations. We're constantly talking about how OSU's having to do
what has OSU done first, especially in the NIL era, that has helped us out at all?
Okay, we're talking about OSU versus like being limited by Gundy's stance on things, like separate issues. Because Gundy was being innovative with other things before NIL,
Mike Boynton was floating,
and then he decided, I'm not going to do this anymore.
The only sport that was innovative and did anything was wrestling. As a university, we have been reactive from the get-go, not proactive. And that's why we're in the issue that we're in, led by our
the fact that we're the first Big 12 team to come out and to say that we got to add a jersey patch, right?
So you think just because we announced first?
Probably, yeah.
No, that's not how these business deals work. These things take months.
So, but I'm saying like the announcement changes the information that people have available.
But you're assuming
it's public information now.
You're assuming that they were flying blind.
I'm not saying they don't have any information. They're going to come into it with something. But what are you comparing it to? Pro teams? Yeah, we're not going to match pro teams. We're not going to be up there with Ohio State, Notre Dame. They're tantamount to pro teams, but Oklahoma State's not. So let's settle for a fraction of that, just so we can say
what you're worth. What
we are worth more than we're worth more than that. And if we would have waited,
but how can you say that? Or we would have gotten that number. That's like saying
we could have waited and we would have gotten a higher number. We could have waited and we would have gotten a higher number. It's like you took the first job offer that you got.
So you think that we only talk to Osage Nation? And that's it?
No, but I'm saying that
Yes, you just
we
said
would have
that. You
waited.
said we just took the first job offer. So you think that we only talked to Osage and then we just closed down shop?
If we would have waited for even today to see the announcements of 17 and 18 million dollars, are you
Doesn't
telling
change
me that
our
Osage
value.
Nation, Chad Weiberg wouldn't go to Osage Nation and be like, hey, I know we've been in discussion about signing for 1 million, but look at these guys. We can't compete with this. Help us
they would
out.
say, screw off. That's Ohio State. You guys haven't won
That's
a conference
fine,
game in
but
2
that's not even
years.
part of the discussion. They're not
That
even getting
is.
to that point. They're just saying, oh, thank you so much for this $1 million.
So you think that, okay, there. You think that we go in begging, saying, thank you so much for every.
Absolutely, 100%. Yes.
That's not how business works. Otherwise, he wouldn't be in the job. That's not how you raise funds.
All right, Justin, your last comments on the matter. Nathan, you'll have a chance to rebuttal, and then I'll jump in and sort of lay it out in the middle.
I don't know. I think I made the point pretty clear. The only other thing that I compare it to is, let's say everybody wants to say that this is a 1-patch deal versus a 2-patch deal. The Big 12 has Monster. They have, and then every other team can have their own whatever they get. Okay. But it's just going to get that much worse. Red Bull can come in to the Big 10 and say, hey, we want to sponsor every one of your schools. We'll pay you $20 million because that's what Monster Energy did with the Big 12. Does that sound fair? No, they're going to get laughed out of the room because it's a joke of a number. $20 million for the entire conference? Are you kidding me? No, that would never happen. They would never settle for that amount of money. And the fact that we did and we settled for it on both fronts proves to me that we're not ready to be part of the big boy conversation moving forward, because this is awful. We're settling. We are better than that.
Nathan, your rebuttal.
The price is the price. And if you're going in with the assumption that the commissioner of the Big 12 didn't do market valuation, which he did the same thing to get us a better TV contract at the time, and everyone thought it was a great deal, all things considered. So he didn't use the same skills to go over and do this. You brought up the Big 10, the team with the biggest TV revenue in the just won basketball, won the last 3 football national championships. They're by far and away the best conference in the nation. Yes, that's called leverage. So they can dictate whatever they want. We cannot. And so the price is the price. I am not going under the assumption that Oklahoma State went into one casino and said, hey, Osage, why don't you give us a patch and we'll take whatever you can give us. That's not how it works. So no, I do not think we could have gotten more money. I do not think a Notre Dame contract with a global company like Chase would have had any effect on Oklahoma State getting a Brahms cheeseburger stapled on their butt. Okay. That's how we got what we got because that's what we're worth. I love Oklahoma State. We suck in football, and that's the most important thing for any university. And we've been pretty terrible at basketball too. So the one thing that this conference hangs its hat on, we've been terrible at both, and we've done nothing to help out. And so when you look at what should we have gotten, yes, it's all rainbows and cherries. We should have gotten $15 million. If we could have, we would have. Do I want more? Absolutely. Did we settle? I don't think we settled. I think we got what we could get. And hopefully it's a 1 or 2 year deal. And if we can do anything like we hope we can do and change the eyeballs and what it looks like from a national brand perspective, then we can ask for more. But right now, we are down and we are losing the arms race. And whether we got a patch or not as a conference or as a school, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Michigan, whoever else is going to go get their money, and they're just going to make it further apart. The Big 10 we have 1/3 the TV revenue that Rutgers gets and Purdue. That's not fair, but that's the reality. And they're going to get from it in the same way, and they're going to benefit from it just in the same way that Ohio State is. There's nothing we can do about that. All we can do is get what we can get. And so, do I like the numbers? No. But to go ahead and bounce them off and make it a joke, it sucks, man. It's the reality. We're losing the arms race, and us sitting back and not doing anything isn't going to get us any closer.
I think that was a decent scrap. I'll just say, so I do think that maybe the big, I think it would have been beneficial for those numbers to come out before the Big 12s. Do they get any? They're not going to get anything close to that, but is it a couple of more $1 million that they could have squeezed out? Maybe. But to the other side of that, I think the fact that the reported numbers from the Osage Nation and the reported numbers from the Monster, I think those numbers both being somewhat similar probably tells you what the evaluation was for the Big 12. Like I don't think it was much higher, because the fact that the Monster one felt low, especially compared to these numbers, and the Osage Nation one sort of felt low compared to these numbers. So, and you can go to the Osage Nation and be like, hey, do you see what these guys are getting? Maybe we can get more. And they could just be like, we don't have that. We don't have that much more. So no, you can't. So I don't know. It comes down to, like, this is again just a crummy capitalistic part of college football right now that hopefully at some point, sometime, some bill gets passed that we don't have to necessarily worry about all this stuff again. But yeah, maybe the Big 12 knew the Big 10's numbers and we're like, hey, we just got to get ours out, because we know if they come out with these crazy big numbers and then we come out with these tiny numbers, like that, it might have looked worse if it was the same numbers, just reverse order. I don't know. But I do think having waited just a little bit to sort of see if you could push up as much as possible would have been fine. But again, the Monster number and the Osage number being so similar makes me think that that's probably just the evaluation of what the Big 12 and Oklahoma State is right now.
Good discussion, guys. I mean, I hate it, but
good July. Yeah, good July.
We can be civil with each other. It's fine. It's probably the most fired up I've been about anything. So that's where we're at here, mid-July.
Nothing wrong with it.
We should get pod jerseys and sell patches to those jerseys.
Yeah.
Or hats. Pod hats. Your logo's right here.
Yeah,
on all of our hats.
I like it.
With podcasting, it's completely different. It's like, yeah, we'll take sponsorship stuff. We'll do whatever we can. We'll blast your stuff all over. It's completely different situation.
If you only want to give me 1.2 million or whatever, I'll take it.
Nathan, we got to close out because you've got another baseball minute for us. We've got a couple of people signing, it sounds like, with MLB teams. So
yeah, Avery Ortiz went ahead and signed, as well as Hudson Barrett, the two that we kind of talked about on the last. That would be, hey, this would be a huge thing if we could keep them. Not totally surprising. They're both, with both of them have faced a lot of injuries. And so when you kind of get that stacked against you, you just kind of want to take it and go sometimes. And so that kind of seems like that's what happened. But regardless of that, Oklahoma State is in a really good spot going into next year with a lot of good young arms, and they brought in a lot of good pieces. So I'm really looking forward to next year. And there's way too much already preseason hype for baseball. I've seen, preseason top 20 already. And, I think one person already had Oklahoma State as like the dark horse to make Omaha, and it, let's dial that one back, but they are going to be a fun squad. So just the update on the two guys that signed.
Even though I'm adamantly against the amounts that we got, I feel like it could have been more. I am thankful that we are actively pursuing opportunities that are out there. I understand that it's not as much as we would want. I think we could have squeezed the orange for a little bit more juice, but yeah, I mean, the price is the price. You're right. I feel like the price maybe goes up whenever you compare it a little bit to some of these other prices that are out there, but hey, we will, I guess, take what we can get right now, and hopefully it's enough. But I am discouraged by the amounts I'm seeing, because it's just more the rich get richer. And this time where it's so critical for Oklahoma State to have success, if it comes across like we are settling, I don't want it to look like that. I don't want it to feel like that. But seeing the numbers, it kind of does feel like that. And so that's where I would get discouraged as a fan and wanting the best for Oklahoma State, because we just don't want to get left behind. So at the end of the day, doesn't matter what the deal is. Doesn't matter the money that we can get from a sponsor. It's who shows up on the field in the arena. We can turn this thing around. Eric Morris, we believe in you. and all the guys you brought with you. So let's ride.
Monster wasn't the what's the stepdad thing? It was the dad that stepped up. Monster was.
Monster is Other Mommy. If you've seen that trailer, yikes. So okay. Anybody that has seen The Odyssey and you saw the trailer, you know what I'm talking about. So not a stepdad right now.
Still haven't made it out to see. I honestly don't even know like really the story. I generally know the story of like the Trojan horse and stuff like that, but I sort of want to go in blind and just learn about this through this movie, but I haven't seen it yet.
You probably know more than USC and what they've been tweeting about, and it's like, that's embarrassing. You guys should know. You should know about the Trojan horse. Yikes. Anyway. All right, guys. Well, appreciate you once again tuning in to hear me rant. Hopefully I'm done with it forever. I don't want to talk about jersey patches anymore. Let's go into football, basketball, wrestling, baseball. We got all the momentum in the world, so let's ride with that. Appreciate you guys joining us, listening. If you would please like, share, and subscribe to show your support. We will see you next time, hopefully with some better content, because golly, I don't want to talk about these ad patches anymore. Anyway, keep those pistols firing and remember to reload. Go Pokes.